The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Now we need a sense of global responsibility. Think 6 billion humanity equal.
Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great.
Because a vision softly creeping left its scenes while I was sleeping.
It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals.
We must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
Within the sound of silence.
But in order to talk freely of those things, you have to release yourself of those pains.
You see, love liberates. It doesn't bind. Love says, I love you. I love you if you're in China. I love you if you're across town. I love you if you're in Harlem. I love you.
If you hit a talib with your shoe, then there would be no difference between you and that talib. You must not treat others that much with cruelty and that much harshly. You must fight others, but through peace and through dialogue and through education. Then I said, I'll tell him how important education is and that I even want education for your children as well. And I'll tell him, that's what I want to tell you. Now do what you want.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more.
You can be that great a generation.
I said that why shall I wait for someone else? Why shall I be looking to the government, to the army, that they would help us? Why don't I raise my voice? Why don't we speak up for our rights?
One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
Confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
You know what's right. Just do right. You don't really have to ask anybody. The truth is, right may not be expedient. It may not be profitable, but it will satisfy your soul.
Of course, the task will not be easy, but not to do this would be a crime against humanity.
All that is needed for the forces of evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing.
Think about my granddad's lap. Think often about that night. About how some people are waiting for people like us to slide our hands against their walls and say, close your eyes. I'm going to turn on a light.
Welcome to the Forum on CHRW. My name is David Seston. In ancient Rome, the Forum stood as a place where all were able to come out and discuss matters of public interest and concern, and they were able to do so in a free and open environment. Recently, at Western University and other universities around the world, students do not feel that they are able to speak their minds or ask the questions about subjects that concern them. They feel they will be judged by their friends, their peers, and their seniors because they question what's being told to them and whether what they're being told is right or wrong. We cannot have a free and just society where people are afraid to ask the questions and are afraid to speak up. This forum is a project aiming to open dialogue on these subjects that concern students. It is a place where students can talk to other students while trying to get an idea on the concepts that are floating around them without knowing why it's there. There won't be any professors or academics lecturing. This forum will be the student's voice. Because if you hear us talk about it, then maybe it's okay for you to talk about it with your friends and your classmates. The forum will focus on the what, the why, and the how. What the issue is, why it has become an issue, and how it affects Western students specifically and university students in general. What we're talking about today is feminism. We're starting the conversation framed around the situation with Kesha, but also looking at the differences between a feminist issue and whether or not it's unilateral justice or the issues of equality or things like that. What we're also talking about is whether or not the term feminist even is relevant anymore. Why this is an issue, I wish I could answer this with a complete understanding. Like racism and all forms of bigotry, I cannot understand why this still exists in 2013. The reality is women face inequality every day, in every facet of life. However, feminism has taken on an interesting turn in the internet age, with half the conversation unwilling to engage or worse, forming their own movements like Return of Kings. How this affects Western students is pretty easy to see, but it's almost impossible to understand. There's the double standard of the white Western girl, the idea being put forward that women are still just coming to university to get their MRS, at Western, hopefully with somebody from Ivey. It just doesn't make any sense right now, and we need to have conversations about it. This is the first part of the conversation. I'm going to be sitting down with a couple of Western women, but in the future I will be sitting down with a couple of Western guys, and then we're going to do what we should be doing. And that's everybody sitting down and having this conversation. All right, you're listening to The Forum. My name is David, as usual, and today I am joined by Bianca and Athena, and we're going to be talking about feminism, sort of. And the initial part of the conversation we're going to frame sort of in the recent events of what's going on with Kesha and Taylor Swift and Demi Lovato and all that sort of thing. And then I have some questions, and I'm going to take it off in a really weird area, and hopefully I'm going to get people really upset with me. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hope for that, because I kind of hope that people will have a conversation about it, or at least get mad at me. So I guess we'll start with what happened with Taylor Swift, and I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. University has been a really weird experience, and to be sitting here talking about Taylor Swift and Kesha and whatever is not where I thought it would go. But so what happened is Kesha has been trying to get out of her contract, particularly with Sony, but her contract actually isn't with Sony, it's with Dr. Luke. And she tried to get out of it, and then people started questioning why she was trying so hard to get out of it. And it turns out she is accusing Dr. Luke, because no charges have been filed or anything like that, of sexual assault, rape, something. No definitive words have been said, so I'm really not 100% sure. There have been allegations made. And a bunch of people have sort of rallied to her side and are saying, like, this is a feminist issue, that a woman should never have to be... should ever have to work with somebody who has done something horrible to her, and I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with that. But where it comes out of the woodwork is we have Taylor Swift coming out and making statements about this being a feminist issue and how she supports feminist issues, despite the fact that a little while ago she said something.
Like a few years, several years back now, I think she had said that she wasn't a feminist. But I think one of the things that I think changed her mind was when Emma Watson spoke in front of the UN as an ambassador.
He for She campaign. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, so one of these days I'm actually going to talk about what's at the beginning of the forum, but in the introduction to the forum I actually used some quotes from that speech of hers, because I was so floored by her. But yeah, so you have sort of a celebrity who's come out and spoke about feminism, but uses it as a personal launching pad, and then you have Demi Lovato pretty much calling her on it and saying that, feminism should be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing, you should live your life as it, yada, yada, yada. And there's been sort of this debate going on about feminism in pop culture, with celebrities and stuff like that. So, I guess the question is, does it belong there, and should you, how to phrase this, should celebrities be held to talk about, like their personal beliefs? Like, is this something that they should be held accountable for? I think.
I mean, I don't think they have to necessarily say, I don't think they should be expected to say, like, I am a feminist definitively or not. But once you throw it out that you are, I feel that you should probably, like, consistently, your behavior should reflect that, I guess, rather than, for example, like using it when it suits you and taking it off when it doesn't, sort of thing. But I don't think that celebrities need to necessarily have, like, a firm stance on it. I guess, like, that they need to publicly tell everybody, because that is something that is personal. Like, I don't go around campus saying, I'm a feminist.
But some people do.
That is true.
Like, they do make this their identity. So I guess it really does come down to where you sit on how vocal you should be, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that especially nowadays, with it becoming such a big buzzword, with interviewers trying to, like, that's one of the first questions that they ask when a woman is, say, Shailene Woodley or Jennifer Lawrence in any female-led film is, are you a feminist? And it becomes like just this defining characteristic for women to flat out, say that. But with that in mind, of course, it's unfortunate that it's like that. But it's a good thing that's it's coming to the forefront, and it's becoming a part of mainstream discussion. But sometimes it gets the real meaning behind everything, and the what it truly stands for, what the word means, gets lost in it all. So when a celebrity does come out front and does say she or he is a feminist, I do believe that if they do have an influence in the public eye, if they are very public with their beliefs, and especially someone like Taylor Swift, who has such an influence on so many young people, of both boys and girls, she should own up to it just as much. And at first, when I was speaking about it to you guys before, I did have a little different stance of it, but I thought of it in the perspective of, say, like politicians. Like, not to say that Taylor Swift is a politician, but she is one of the most successful singers of the past century. And like Hillary Clinton, for example, who a lot of her campaign is, she tries to sway younger women by saying, she is a feminist and she does stand for these issues. A lot of the time she's not known for not being very consistent with her stances. Not going to go into that, but then again, like Taylor Swift, I do believe that she should be, I think, a little held accountable for what she does say, especially if it's in the public eye. And but also keeping in mind that, like, me, myself, as a feminist, or anybody else, we do have room for improvement, and we can make mistakes and have opportunity to correct ourselves.
So I guess this will lead to sort of a question I have a little bit later, or depending on how much time we have, maybe next. Do you believe that all women should be feminists? Ooh.
I mean, I don't. I do, because I don't, and also men, because. And I don't think it should be something even that you should say. I think previously Justin Trudeau, there was a video of him on the internet where he was like, I don't understand why people in social media and on YouTube, everybody goes crazy when I say I'm a feminist, because it should be something that's just inherently there once you are born. Of course, it's something that, you can't expect everybody to have the same beliefs and ideologies, except I think it's just a fundamental value that everybody should have. You as men like to be treated equally and have their privilege, so should women. It shouldn't be something that, I don't know, I think you should have a certain stance on. I think once people start seeing that it's all just about opportunity and just to have the choice, just to even have the choice of I don't know, pursuing a certain career, or I don't know, trying out for your favorite sport, like having that freedom to do that, that's all it comes down. It's these small things, and it adds up. So
I agree. I mean, yeah, like Bianca said, like fundamentally, I feel like as long as you believe in equality and justice, then you should be a feminist. But I think the thing is, not everybody does. And that's why I think, like, in an ideal world, everyone should be a feminist, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Well, no, and we'll come back to sort of the connotation that the word feminism has these days. But I kind of want to sort of wrap up with the Kesha thing, just so we can, because something really interesting did come out of it, and that is I sort of understand why she didn't come out with the allegations initially. Because as an artist, what you say, and this is what we were just talking about, affects everything to do with your career. And the second she would come out with an allegation, she unfortunately becomes the victim. People will, like, her music is already under such scrutiny for its content that it would just come under more, and people will use it as a venue of attack. And I can understand how she doesn't want to. But now she's in a position where she had to make the allegation, and the question starts becoming, well, did you just make this allegation to get out of it? And does, like, how this sort of affects feminism is, like, you have to take everything at face value. Like, everything has to be or should be equal, I guess. And do we give her weight? Like, do we give her allegation weight because of the fact that she said it, or the situation around it, or, like, how do we judge where she's coming at this from?
It's hard to. It's difficult because, like you said, there are also allegations at this point. So we maybe know who we would like to believe, but no one has, I guess, presented what the truth, like what actually happened is, right? But I guess we give more weight to something like this because she is so famous, she's in the public eye, and that's why I guess there has been so much response, especially on the internet about it, and in the media because she's someone who's well known and has stirred up controversy in the past. So I guess now it's even more, more to talk about with respect to her situation.
Yeah, especially because I think with Bill Cosby, Jian Gomeshi, these are all the men who are involved are more in the public eye. Now we're seeing somebody who's a female celebrity who was a victim, and she's coming forth. So I feel like, if anything, that has more weight to it in terms of, sympathy, and also fellow female musicians who have also probably gone through this, because it's inherently there, especially in the entertainment industry, all the time, goes by unheard of all the time, and it's terrible. But I think especially because now we have a woman who's coming forward such as Kesha, especially has it's definitely going to raise more discussion.
So I'm going to sort of segue this in because you had a story for us, and if you're okay talking about it, and this sort of parallels the other side of it, because yes, it's a female that's coming forward this time who's making the allegations, but there's always another side to the coin. Yeah. So do you mind talking about it?
Sure. Yeah, I can say a little bit about it. So I used to help work with an all-ages arts event organization in high school. Very well known, well respected, and it was a great service to the community, and everybody knew who this person was who started it all. They were a big name. A lot of people respected them. There was always, though, some hubbub about the legitimacy of the organization and also working with them. They were great. But of course, we're all young people. We're all teenagers, so it's not going to be very strict, which is what everybody kind of liked. But with that, I think there always came connotations of, people always, there's always going to be drinking at these events. There's always going to be drugs involved, and so besides that, it will happen, I think, last year. Somebody on the internet under an anonymous kind of blog name started talking about recent events or past events that happened to her and other friends who have worked with this person who started the organization, flat out saying, accusing them for sexual assaults and rape, but all of their words were quite vague, and because this person and also the organization had such a big name in the community and in the city, it just exploded, and even lawyers got involved, and it became very difficult for the person who was accused, because they had such a big influence. This was their company, everything that they worked for, and it all got tainted and kind of destroyed just because of this one person came up. So it's difficult. There's a line to draw, but it's like a push and pull between trying to sympathize and believe those who had supposedly been were victims of the situation, or is it also to try to really get the other end of the story, because this was also somebody whose career was destroyed, and it was all the issue of rape and sexual assault went onto this one person's shoulders, and it wasn't on the company as a whole, so it became their issue. So yeah, and it just became very messy, and a lot of people ended up pointing fingers and leaving their side, and so
yeah, and I think that's the reason I'm really glad you told that story was I think this is sort of the problem that Kesha's facing right now, is that she didn't initially come forward with this for whatever reasons, but now that she didn't get out of her contract and the allegations are coming forward, people are starting to wonder if she's just trying to ruin his reputation, which takes away from the actual issue.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing, it's because I personally believe that all rape allegations need to be taken absolutely seriously because, it should. It's reality. However, that one word destroys people. It destroys lives. So it's, now you've got to wonder what situation she's in. But this segues into my first hard question or difficult question or controversial question. Yay. Is this issue between Kesha and her manager and between the gentleman that you knew and unfortunately an anonymous allegation, which is even worse, is this a feminist issue? Or is this an equality issue? Should we, instead of saying, she's a woman that got victimized and yada, 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 say, this was a person who had something bad happen to them, and if a guy was in the same situation, that we would hope that they would receive the same sort of attention and sympathy and outpouring. So I guess this is where the definition of feminism comes in, I guess.
I think first and foremost, not to be like, oh my God, you just said something wrong, David. But no. I think, I think
probably did. I'm not gonna lie.
I think when you say this should be is this an equality issue or a feminist issue? I think that they should be thought as synonymous. They should be together because feminism and equality are very intertwined, because I think when because then I think you brought in the issue of if the genders were switched, so that would be an equality issue versus a feminist.
Well, actually, wouldn't it be a masculinity? No, that just sounds weird.
But see, I feel like with feminism, because women, we have such a long history of dealing with hardships, and the first and the second and the third wave of feminism have gone through. It's mainly the focus on women. And that's totally true. But it is also about men as well, because men go through a lot as well, I believe, and I don't think that there's enough attention. They do also suffer from sexual assault, depression, inequality. There's a lot of issues. There was a recent documentary that went out. I don't know if you heard about the documentary Misrepresentation, but the same creators, it's all on Netflix, it's great. So it talks about how social media is basically affecting the representation of women and objectifying them. And they also made kind of a brother to that documentary about men and how going back to the home and how they're raised, and social media and cultural norms, how it's shaping their ideas about violence, why they're going to drugs and drinking and stuff like that. So I think we need to think about both sides of the coin. Of course, I'm very biased, but as women, there is still a really long way to go. But I still think that in helping men, we do also help women as well. Sorry, that's something else, but it ties into I think, just the distinguishment between equality and feminism, and I think they should be together. But
definitely. Yeah,
I don't know if you wanted to answer that. Answer the question.
Agree. Like I said earlier, if you believe in equality and justice, then you're a feminist. But so no.
I'll come back to that. Okay. I'll come back to that in a minute.
But so I definitely agree with what Bianca was saying in response to your question. To, I guess, answer your question a little bit more, I guess, yes, we would hope that if the roles were reversed, that the same kind of, outpouring of love for, whoever is making the accusations and support would be the same. But that might not be true in reality, because, I think, if the roles were reversed, it's still a horrible situation for, both people to be in. But because I think feminism has kind of, evolved a little bit into kind of what it has become, and because it is so sensationalized, as Bianca was mentioning earlier, I think that changes how in reality the response is, even though ideally the response and everything would be the exact same if the roles were reversed, or genders were reversed.
But I think sort of it's always weird being a guy talking about these things, and we're going to talk about this in a minute. Okay. Well, but when I start saying things, I always feel like I have to qualify myself and say, like, I absolutely believe in equal rights and stuff like that. And sort of one of my concerns is, like, if laws are going to be written or adjusted, and I personally think this completely exemplifies how behind the times certain laws are, the fact that, like, even if she were to somehow get a court order and get out, or just have a company that's going to pick her up and just pay the penalties for dropping her contract or walking away from her contract, he could literally hold her up in court and hold her music up in court for decades because of breach of contract. So, like, this is one of those instances where I think, the laws do need to be updated and changed. However, because it is so sensationalized feminist, that I wonder if the laws would be written in a biased way the other way.
By women? Like by...
Well, I almost think that it would be unfair to women and painting them almost as weaker, that they need specifically worded protection.
Yeah, no, I see that happening.
And that's almost where my fear is that, we could almost swing, like the oh my God, we need to do this, it needs to be feminism, that it's that whole, oh my God, you need protecting thing again. And you brought up, did you bring up John Ghomeshi?
Yeah,
because this is another touchy one. I really don't want to get into John Ghomeshi because he is, it's just a whole can of worms. But there is this almost double system coming in that women need to be protected in the media. So it's
I mean, it also comes with, do you think that these laws are going to do anything? Do we really think that writing these laws are going to prevent people from,
Oh, I'm an optimist. I
personally don't think it will. I just I don't know. What do you think?
That's actually a really good question.
I'm not sure, but I think
it's difficult.
I would lean towards agreeing with Bianca in this situation, just because, there are so many laws that we have for so many things and people break them all the time.
I guess that, okay. So the problem is bad people are going to continue to do bad things. You're not able to stop a murderer until they commit murder. You're not going to be able to stop a rapist until they actually do it. But the laws are there to protect the person afterwards and at least attempt to prevent this situation from that specific person from ever doing this again. At least that's the hope. So do I think the laws are going to change anything that way? No, because then we start going into like Minority Report territory, and that's just creepy. But do I think that rewriting the laws allows people the recourse to protect themselves in the future? I hope so.
Yeah, I think it definitely. I'd like to think or hope it would be a deterrent for sure. For those who would perpetrators and like you said, it's always gonna happen. That's why I like to answer my first response. But at least I'd hope. I think it'd be an interesting way if that actually panned out to see how how would it be written, and like would it result in like massive monetary consequences, like payments, or would it result in like time in jail, or like how many like warnings do they get before it just like so.
I don't know, the people that were listening last week, my idea of appropriate punishment seems to be a little bit out of line with everybody else. But I guess my biggest concern is because of the sensationality of feminism in the modern media, is that women are almost being, particularly where laws are coming, and I'm almost afraid of sort of coddling in it, or how we're treating women, and personally most women I know are tough enough to stand up to things. So I kind of wonder if, as part of the sort of, I guess, overextension of feminism, which we'll talk about when we come back from the break, that we're going to write bad laws that women don't need, that move to protecting one sex over the other. Oh, hey, look at that. Right at the awkward pause, the alarm goes off. So we'll be back. We're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be back, and I'm going to ask the next hard question, and hopefully we have some answers. All right?
Hi, I'm Yoav. I'm a fourth-year student in consumer behavior, and you're listening to 94.9 CHRW.